In this video, I want to show you the easiest way to locate resources within the Think Central system. Before viewing this video, I encourage you to watch the troubleshooting video so that you can make sure that you know that your pop-up blockers need to be turned off and some other basic ways to filter through to find the resources that you need. I've currently filtered out for Mathematics, Grade 3, and English resources. When you first look at the list of resources, it can be overwhelming when you're trying to make a plan for your lesson. I'm going to show you a couple ways to make it a little bit easier. They have built into the Teacher Edition an ePlanner. So I'm going to locate the Teacher Edition for this grade. When I click on it, it will open up in a separate window. And I could go through the table of contents and work my way through the activities. And when I go to Chapter at a Glance, I can see that there's a lot of print resources for me. There's a digital path section. But the problem is if I click on any of those, it doesn't take me to the actual activity or the print resource. This is just an idea for me of something that I could use. Where you can go when you're inside the Teacher Edition is to the ePlanner. It's the icon at the top right. Looks like a large capital E, and that will directly take you to the ePlanner. It opens it up in a separate tab, and then what I like is that you can select the chapter, and it shows a screenshot of all of the lessons that you're going to be working on. And when you go to a specific lesson, it has the digital path direct links at the bottom. So for example, I'm going to use lesson 8.4 fractions of a whole, and at the bottom I can see live links to Soar to Success, Destination Math, Animated Math Models, the iTools, Mega Math. They have a direct link to the eStudent Edition, and then they even have professional development video podcasts for you to watch. Notice that not all of them have a digital path in every lesson. For example, 8.5, they may not have something specific that you're looking for, like the video podcast or the Destination Math activity. I'll show you a couple of my favorite online resources and just some things that you can do with them. For example, in 8.4 fractions of the whole, if I want to take a look at their animated math models, I click and I can either view, schedule, or assign. If I'm going to display this on the LCD machine so my students can see it, I select view. It opens up in a separate window, and you can move that window around by touching the gray bar at the top. I like to send it all the way to the left, and then I come over to the right border until I can see a two-headed arrow, and I drag that over to the right so it's a little bit larger for my students to see. And this is a really nice one to go through because it does the gradual release of instruction, where it teaches them the math, then you work the math through, they do an independent practice, and then a quiz. So this is a great way to teach as a whole group, but you can also do this as a small group or assign this to students if you've created your student accounts. When you're done working through this, you'll close that window by pressing the X in the corner. And it's a little bit tricky in Think Central because it takes you back to that window, but they pop you back to the tab that you first started on. But if you look over to the right, there's a tab for the Go Math ePlanner and another tab that takes you into that ePlanner. So this is the way it interacts when you're working in the Teacher Edition. It acts a little bit different if you go straight to the ePlanner. I'll model that after I get done showing you a few more things here. The iTools within each of them is a great place to work with the students also. In this one, they're giving me two different types that I can use, circles or fraction bars. Again, I can view it. It pops me into a new window. I can slide that window to the left and then drag it over to the right to make it larger. Whenever I start with the iTools, I like to start by going up to the question mark, and it explains to me what you're going to do within these math manipulatives. And it's really nice to understand what they were trying to get the students to see. They also give at the bottom information where you can click check, use the eraser to remove the last item, or clear off the whole work mat using the brush. I'm going to close that. It's also nice to notice that when you click on items and you drag it over and click, it shows, but as you keep clicking, it keeps adding more pieces. Playing around with this is the best way to get to know how to use these manipulatives before you try to use them with your students. A lot of times they give you different formats that you can select, so I can always go back to my fraction bars. I can also change the fraction activity up at the top if I want to do some addition instead. And then I could get back to my main menu, which gives me all of the different types of iTools. But remember, when you close this at the end, again, it pops you back to that first tab, second tab, third tab to get back to where you want to see the resources. MegaMath is a great one to assign to your students if you get a chance, but I've used it as a whole group lesson. Very engaging. It gives the students a chance to see a lot of information and look at it in a different way. She starts with an introduction. She'll introduce them to the workspace, the eraser, the speaker. I like to press go after they've done that one time. That way they know that they can skip that portion. So she's asking them to compare 5/8 to which of the shapes matches. And then they would make their choice, and it would tell them with immediate feedback if they were correct. So it tells them that they're correct. Again, if you close it, it takes you back, and you have to move all the way over 3 tabs to get back. The Student Edition is built inside here, and again, you can click View, slide the window over, make it a little bit longer. And what's nice is that they do have some things built inside here. For example, the little speakers will read the paragraph. You know that sometimes your students like to tune out your voice, so maybe hearing someone else's voice is nice. You can zoom in up at the top a little bit larger, a little bit smaller. You can select to see 2 pages at one time, but you would want to make that a little bit smaller if you want to see both pages on the same screen. Or you can go back to the one-page view and make it a little bit bigger. Another thing that's nice is if you do have an interactive whiteboard like a smartboard or a Promethean board, it's a great chance to click on your tools that allow you to still write or highlight or underline key things within this information that you think the students need to pay attention to. So it's nice to use those interactive whiteboard tools if you have those available to you. Now when you're done with that student book, you can again close it, move over to the 3rd tab. And now I wanted to show you some of the print resources. In the print resources, you'll click on the blue arrow, and they have all of these print resources that you can view. The example I'll use is the lesson transparency. There's 2 choices. I can do the student edition or the teacher edition. When you select to view the teacher edition, it's going to pull it up and it's going to have the answers on it. So I encourage you to choose the student edition when you select that so that you can work with the students without them seeing the answer. Again, you can resize your window. If you're going to focus on just one, you can zoom in on that one and then slide it over. And again, it's a great opportunity to use some of those whiteboard resources where you can do some highlighting and other items. It does give you the option above to print, so you can select print and then select print again, and then you can send it to the printer that's connected to your computer or on the network. So in review, one of my favorite ways to use the resources in Think Central is to use the ePlanner. I showed you one way to get to it was by using the Teacher Edition and then clicking on that E. I'm going to close out of that window and close out of the next tab, and I'm going to go back into the area that I had marked. Now when you take a look at this, something that I find tricky is that there is a star that just says ePlanner itself, but it disappears. So if you want to go directly to that ePlanner and it's not showing, the way that I've found to correct that is to just switch your subject to reading so it filters back to reading, go back to math, and then it rearranges your resources and that ePlanner is right there. So I showed you how to get to the ePlanner through the Teacher Edition, but you can also go directly to the ePlanner by finding this star, clicking on it. Once it loads up, select the chapter you want to go to, and then you have those same tools that you can use. Now this one works just slightly different. When I work on one of my activities and I go to close the screen, when I click on it, Think Central's back behind, but my ePlanner did not go into a tab with it. It's actually hiding behind that window. So that's a tricky thing. If you're using the Teacher Edition, it goes tab, tab, tab. But if you go directly to the ePlanner like I showed you with the star, you have to remember to minimize this window to always get back into your ePlanner. Now I would like to share with you some of the great reading resources that they have built into the Think Central website. I have filtered out for reading 3rd grade in English. Each grade level has different offerings, so you just kind of have to play around with what is inside your grade level. And there's not a good one-stop shop like there was in math as an ePlanner. So you have to kind of move through these. 2 that I want to point out are a little bit difficult to use or just kind of give you some tips. In this 3rd grade example, I'm going to go to the Storytown Intervention Readers. When I click on these Storytown Intervention Readers, it pops up into a new window, and I can choose one of these that I want to focus on. When it first opens, it's going to open up in a window, and it might be a little bit too small as you click on the arrow to advance forward to have the students be able to read that if you're putting this on the large LCD machine or your smartboard or Promethean board. When I click on the words, it's actually going to read the sentence out loud.
You are little now. What will you do when you get big?
It reads one paragraph at a time. Now, if you want your students to be able to see that visually, if you're using a Macintosh computer, you can hold down the Command key and use the plus sign, and that will make it a little bit bigger. Use the plus sign again, it gets even bigger. But then your controls for advancing forward are down at the bottom if you need to move down to find them. If you do Command minus, it makes it smaller. Command minus, a little bit smaller. And those same tips work with a Windows PC computer, but you use Control plus and Control minus instead of the Command plus and the Command minus. I'm going to close this tab and move into another one that I like to use with reading. And these are the Storytown Readers Collections. When you click on the Storytown Readers Collections, you can select what level you want to work with. When you select one of the stories, it's going to open up in a PDF file within your browser. Now, when you first open it up, it might look very large, and that could be useful, but it might be a little bit difficult as you go down for the students to get a good idea of what this looks like. When it opens as a PDF within your browser, there's a bar at the bottom that gives you some tools, such as save it, print it, go forward and backwards on the pages, make it smaller or bigger. And then I want you to pay attention to this very last one. The very last icon says Show Adobe Reader Toolbar. I like to click on that one because it gives me a few more choices. On the left side, I have a little paper icon, and that lets me see the pages as thumbnails so I can quickly navigate to them. I also have some tools going across the top, and one of them that I do like, I'm going to put these pages away, one that I do like is it's currently at 205%. And the little icon that says fit to window width and enable scrolling is making it that size. However, the icon next to it says fit one full page to the window. If I click, it will take that one page so that I can visually see the whole page. And then I can click back at that button if I want it to go bigger. And then I could play around with zooming out and zooming in if I needed. Notice that there's even a sound icon within this that you can click and it will read this story out loud if needed. And then I can go back to full screen mode if I need, and it will turn on the little toolbar down below. Now, talking about some of those PDF options is going to be important as we go through these. I'm going to use kindergarten as my example, so I'm going to filter back over to kindergarten, and they're going to have some different items here than what maybe a 3rd grade teacher would see. But what I wanted to show you is how you can download some of these items as long as they're a PDF. And then you could mark on the items, print the items. They're really nice to use if you have an interactive whiteboard like a smartboard or Promethean board. So the example I'll use is the Journeys Interactive Instructional Flip Charts. And teachers may have these flip charts in their rooms, but what's really nice is now you have those flip charts where you can interact with them on the computer. So I'm going to just jump over to one of the lessons, lesson 22. And when I click on this, I have this where I can view it. But what's nice about it is I can do a little bit more. I'm going to advance a few pages. And let's say that I want to actually mark on this, and I want to use this with the whiteboard. Now, they do give me some whiteboard tools here, so those of you that do not have Promethean or Smartboard, you can use some of these whiteboard tools here and some notes and highlighting options, but it doesn't give you a lot. What you can do is you can actually save this PDF and import it into your smartboard or your Promethean board. I'll walk you through the steps to save it, but then actually importing it, you'll have to watch my video where I talk about how to use some of these resources with an interactive whiteboard. If this is the page that I want to import, I'm going to click Print, and I'm going to choose it as a single page, and it's showing page 13 to 13, and I'm going to select Print. Now what's really odd is that I'm saying that I want to print it, but I'm not going to print this. I'm going to do a different step. I'm actually going to come down to the bottom where it says PDF and click, and I'm going to save this as a PDF. And you might have a special folder that you save everything in. I'm just going to put this on my desktop for right now, and maybe I'll name this as Unit 22 flip chart so that I can remember that. And I'm going to save it. And I'll do a couple more of a different style, and then I'll show you what you can do with this once you do pull it in. Or actually, I think what I'll jump to is the Decodable Reader first. I think I'll stick with that Unit 5. There's a little Table of Contents button over on the left side if you want to see what the Table of Contents are. And then you can click whichever one it is that you want to look at. And if I look back at the Table of Contents, it looks like this is page 1 through 6. And so if I want to save pages 1 through 6, I can also do that. I can go down to the pages 1 through 6, Print, OK, and then in the PDF, save it as a PDF. And then I can name this So there's lots of these that as long as they're a PDF, you can save them. And then what's really nice is when you watch my interactive whiteboard video and how to use these resources can be brought into a smartboard or a Promethean board file. And then if you go in full screen mode, you have the options. You can write on the things, you can highlight on them, you can interact with these items, you can use some of your other tools to maybe cover it and display just a certain portion at a time. That may help students. And then what's nice about this also is if it's in the actual smartboard or Promethean board program, if you scroll, that writing scrolls with it. And that's one thing that doesn't work if you're just going to do the tools over the actual PDF. So let me show you just a few more pages of this. Here's that decodable reader that I brought in that I have. I can bring that down. I could go back and resize that so that it all fits on one screen and I wouldn't have to resize it or scroll down each time. Another example that I have is pulling in a PDF of a reading theme. I believe this is 4th grade reading theme that you can pull in and use this within your interactive whiteboard lesson. I hope you found this useful. Check out some of my other videos that I have with Think Central, where I focus on how to use it with the Promethean board and how to use resources also with the Smart Board if you're lucky enough to have one available to you. Thank you and have a great day.